Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Expanse reaction video. Today I'm going to be watching, reviewing, and reacting to Season 3, Episode 1. Alright, so it took me a little bit longer than I had hoped to actually get to this episode. May's been a bit crazy between not being well and having family parties and for birthdays and Mother's Day and graduation parties and, you know, all the typical spring stuff. So things have been a little nuts lately. And because of that, I want to kind of just quickly get going into the episode without much delay. So I'll just say that there were some pretty big cliffhangers, stuff we left off with at the end of Season 2. And I guess kind of the biggest things going into this season are going to be, one, what the hell is going to happen with Avasarala and Bobby and Kocha out on Jules Pierre Mao's ship. They've prevented themselves from getting slaughtered, although Kocha is shot, but we don't know what's going to happen now. Two, what's going to happen with Holden and the crew of the Rossi now that they know that Naomi has not only not destroyed their part of the proto-molecule, but given it to Fred Johnson. And then three, we still have to see if they're ever going to find or be able to even save, if they do find, Prax's daughter, May, who's being experimented on. So, alright, that's where we are right now. Let's get started with Season 3. Episode 1, here we come.
We're not done here. Look, just look at my eyes and tell me the God's honest truth. What were you thinking when Naomi told you what she did? I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know what she was saying because my blood was so hot in my ears.
She's not the person I thought she was.
I mean, this is kind of what I was saying, that I was somewhat worried of that, you know, happening. Oh God.
We're about to be in the middle of a war zone.
First, I was somewhat worried about that happening even when...
Name and dry signature.
Wait, what?
Ship would be a prize for either side.
Copy that.
They're not gonna be the Rossi anymore? What? No, I'm not okay with that. I mean...
It's okay.
Oh God.
Stay with me now. Stay with me. It's okay. It's okay.
He's worse than I realized.
We still have hostiles on board. They've killed the elevator, which is our only way out, so first things first.
But that will be playing yesterday's game. And there's no longer time for that. Because now the belt is in a position to become an equal player. Because I have the Ender's weapon. And you have the key to harnessing that weapon.
Oh, he's talking to Dawes, isn't he?
Or your bowl will be plentiful.
For a minute. Shit.
Well done, madam.
That is what she said.
Here. She's gonna help us out.
Give it up. Huh? Yeah.
Bobby's just like, yes, that's what I wanted you to do.
An official statement for you to review, sir?
Keep me.
You're crawling into bed with Anderson Dawes, who incited my daughters into nearly firing missiles at her, who nearly destroyed Tycho and got both of us killed.
Mm-hmm.
We should go to Tycho.
No.
Fred Johnson will help us.
Of course he will. You brought him the blue goo. Now you want to bring him a nice little warship.
What the hell are you thinking, Naomi? Do you have any idea how many more people are gonna die because of what you did?
Fewer Felters.
Are you kidding me? You know, I wanted to give that shit to Mars, remember? Well, we all decided as a group to fly that crap into the sun, so what gives you the right to make that decision for
Yeah,
us?
he's right.
We were talking about survival. Tycho is how we survive.
We're not going to Tycho. We'll take our chances on Palace or Ceres. There's plenty of places to hold up and ride this out.
Everyone knows who we are, and a lot of them consider us criminals. 5 minutes after we dock, they'll rat us out to Mars for a nice little finder's fee. If it's a Martian patrol, they will take back the ship by force. And if it's an Earth patrol, they'll just blow us up. We've got no friends, no safe harbor. We are living on borrowed time if we don't get this ship parked. Get us to Tycho, and you'll never have to see my face again.
Come on, let's finish this up.
All right, Rita.
I mean, she had to have expected a reaction like this, right? I mean, how would she have felt if Alex had done the exact same thing that she did? But, like, he has a point, but with Mars, like, no. But yeah, how would she have felt if Alex had turned around after they all agreed to destroy the first molecule and secretly kept it around and then gave it to Mars behind all of their backs?
We're unarmed. We're just a flight crew.
Not the coffee maker!
You should try tea.
That's how you know that Holden's really messed up.
When I was not selling out to the captain, he told us Mal kept his kid's ship up in the hangar bay. A racing ship.
Let's go. Move.
Julie's racerback?
All communications come through here, yes? A record of every message in and out of this ship.
There's a comms buffer somewhere in the memory panels.
Get it from me, please?
Now?
This is our priority.
And Berg's message should be on there. The one that proves he's a treasonous piece of shit whose balls should be grounded.
Not that you for space junk.
There are dozens of modules in that system. It would take me hours to...
Then stop wasting time.
It's my job to keep you alive, and you're making it damn difficult.
I don't have any evidence that my life isn't worth much either.
Can I just pick her up?
Are you tired?
There's no time.
Hey, you were scared. You're overwhelmed. And so are we. Take a breath. You have a family you want to get back to. Someone you love. We're the same. Now, focus and get me what I need. It is very important.
The ship is pretty tense. You can mention that on Tycho.
I mean, I guess she has a point too, right? If they escape, but there's no proof, then she's just a war criminal.
You really like body metaphors.
That's what he knows.
One for a guy who has a problem tilting at windmills.
Tilting at windmills.
I tend to take on fights that can't be won.
Mm.
It's nice to let go of all that.
It's too bad. It's the way a child looks at things, with a sense of the possible.
Child who won't grow up turns into a fool.
The fools keep going, even when they know there's no chance of winning.
I knew a guy like that once.
What happened to him?
That wasn't May on our ship. There's nothing human in those eyes.
I'll probably never know. I gotta learn to live with that. Not knowing.
I think this is what I've always really wanted to do. More than I wanted to be there with you. I just could never really tell you that. Because I don't think I knew myself.
But that doesn't mean that for 1 second I do not love you. Both of you. Very, very much.
I don't give a fuck about your daughter.
Jim.
I used you to get us through Ganymede, and none of us would be breathing if you hadn't come.
But you don't have to say that.
We owe you some answers. So at least you know we did everything we could.
I knew it.
The lab.
But sacrificing this crew doesn't bring her back. Look past your anger towards me, please.
This isn't about you. And I don't give a damn about the proto-molecule anymore. It's out there now. So be it. But we promised Prax we'd help him find his daughter. And we did every damn thing except
We're
that.
all in agreement. Tycho is the only way we survive. I assure you, Fred Johnson will help us.
Fuck it.
Amos.
Me too. I was set a course.
They're not gonna listen to you anymore, Naomi.
I need you to lead a salvage mission. Bring back the Nabu.
You want to make nice with the moments? No, why
We're
would
gonna
you?
retrofit the ship on the belt. Because soon, we're not gonna be a bunch of tribes. We're gonna be a nation.
Sound a little like you want.
I feel like there is a lot to talk about with this episode, so I guess I'll quickly start with the end and everything that we saw there. So I'm assuming that Katja was expecting that he was gonna die, despite all the things that he was saying to Avasarala to try to reassure her. You know, maybe he thought there was a chance. Obviously, that other guy, they was trying to convince him they were gonna be okay. But I just have a feeling that he thinks that he's dead, and that Bobby kind of came to the same conclusion. That would really suck. I mean, I liked him. I liked him a lot. And he had a great dynamic with Avasarala and Bobby. The three of them together is great dynamic, and Bobby was extremely badass this episode. She killed it. I did want to briefly say before I get into like some details of this episode that Bobby and Prax are two characters that in season 2, you know, came on the scene and then gradually, especially in the latter half of season 2, started to play much bigger roles in the story overall. And I feel like now that we've seen them for a little while, we're getting into season 3, they're here, they're more firmly established, that I feel like these are two really good, great really additions to the series. Both of these characters, I think, bring a lot of new, interesting possibilities to the story. Prax has really done a lot for the team on the Rocinante, I feel, in terms of personal dynamics, especially with Amos, but even, you know, things that we saw in this episode with his conversations with Holden. Yeah, I think that he's done a lot, and not just plot-wise, but also character-wise in contributing. And then Bobby, all of her dynamics with Avasarala and Katja is great. She's a really interesting character. I like that they have more Martian presence in the main cast list, other than just Alex, who, even as we saw again today, you know, doesn't really have as much of a connection with, a tie to Mars, even his own family, as than, say, Bobby has, from the perspective of a Martian, or at least it never really felt that way. So I think they've both been really good introductions, good additions, I should say, not introductions, good additions to the show and the main cast list, and I'm really enjoying what's happening with both of them. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. And another really kind of general thing from this episode that I really liked was all of the little kind of like throwbacks, tiebacks again to both Julie and Miller. And it's kind of, you know, ever since Eros crashed into Venus, they have still been looking into the aftermath of that. Obviously, they have the scientists going there, they're trying to figure out what's happening, and then, of course, we saw what happened in the season finale. But, you know, they personally aren't focused on as much. But I like how even little things, you know, here's the Razorback, and that is the reason, in a way, Julie is the reason that Avasarala and Bobby are assuming they get away, are able to escape from this situation. And at the same time, you have Holden making references to Miller when he's talking to Prax, and then in thinking about that, in thinking about both Prax and thinking about his own goals and thinking about Miller and the idea of lost causes, he starts thinking about not just Prax's daughter, but about the protomolecule, and then he's able to make the connection between the timing of what happened to them and what happened on Venus with the Arbogast, and then he's able to use that to trace back a possible location for May. So it's maybe I'm kind of stretching things a little, but I like the idea that kind of underneath the surface, even though they're gone, Miller and Julie still have a presence, and that presence is still impacting the story in the way that they themselves, their lives have then impacted the other characters that are. So yeah, in terms of a lot of the big things that happen this episode, we obviously see that Aaron Wright has laid the pieces to put all the blame on Avasarala and continue to try to push forward with this war against Mars simultaneously. But if she gets away, and if she happened to actually get copies of the messages that indicate or prove what Aaron Wright actually did, then she actually has, I guess, a chance of not just surviving, but being able to kind of prove her innocence and his guilt. So there was a lot of big story-wise developments there. I also liked that we saw more of Fred Johnson and Drummer again. I think I'm very curious to see what's going to happen since he's sending her out to bring back the Naboo. That is something I didn't anticipate or see coming, but I guess they're gonna try to create this massive ship for the belt. And I mean, that is like the biggest ship that I have ever seen. So yeah, I imagine that could be quite a force to be reckoned with if they were gonna outfit it and use it to their various purposes. So I'll be interested to see how that goes, and I also like that it seems, based on that they're taking those characters in a direction where they have more of a story, as they've kind of fallen into the background, and even when they played a bigger role previously, they were mostly just kind of a support characters for what was happening with Holden's crew and the Rocinante, and now they're seemingly going down a storyline of their own, which is interesting. I'm curious to see how that develops going forward too. And then we have Holden and the crew of not the Rossi anymore, I guess. I'm gonna I feel like I have to still call it the Rossi. It feels like it's a part of it's like a character. It's like it has its own personality. You know, I just watched that Expanse crack video, and there was about Alex being in love with the ship's his girlfriend. I mean, that's a joke, but there's an element to it where, yeah, that's an actual character, and it just, I understand the reasons they had to do it, and it seems to tie in with the underlying feeling and theme of what's happening here, with kind of like their crew seemingly falling apart after what Naomi did and things changing, but it's the Rossi. It's in my heart, it's the Rossi. But yeah, so Holden has discovered what he thinks is a possible location where either May could be, or maybe just there's more clues to her location, and he feels, you know, kind of inspired to pick up sort of where he left off in more of his kind of idealistic side, now that he's I don't want to say like forsaken his other quest for the protomolecule, but now that he's kind of realized that he can't just alone, or even just with his small crew, hope to prevent the protomolecule from spreading. It's totally out there. It's completely out there in numerous places now, partially as a result of Naomi's actions, so his own crew's actions, and because of his trusting in her and believing that she had actually destroyed it. So, I mean, he's got to accept that he alone can't just destroy that. But kind of picking up on, ironically enough, the message that Naomi had tried to tell him before this happened, he's thinking, but there are still things that we can do, possibly, right? There's still human things that we can do. And maybe we can actually find and hopefully save May, save Prax's daughter. You know, we promised him that we were going to help him look for her. We didn't. I'm admitting and realizing that I just straight up used him for my own goals. And I think that we should now turn around and do this. So our Don Quixote is back on his quest, but maybe it's a somewhat more realistic one. So maybe he's not fully Don Quixote, I don't know. But he's still Holden, so probably. But yeah, and I don't know what Naomi was expecting to happen in terms of her input into the crew. You know, she tried to kind of go the same way she always has by just saying, here's the practical reasons that we should do certain things and trying to lay it out piece by piece. And her rationale isn't wrong. She isn't wrong in what she's saying necessarily, but I don't know what she was expecting to happen in that she's not going to have the same influence over any of them anymore. Holden, you know, one of the main reasons that he was able to be influenced by her previously was because he both loved her and trusted her. He believed in her, and now I'm sure I'm sure he still loves her, but the trust, especially in her motivations, isn't going to be there. Isn't going to be the same anymore. So she's not going to be able to have that same influence over him that she had previously. And then you have Amos and Alex, who are no longer going to be seeing her as just kind of like this rational person with this perspective of, well, here's what we should do, here's the right sane thing to do, and also just viewing her from that more kind of positive light where Amos had her sort of held up on a pedestal as a moral authority figure to follow. You know, once she gave the protomolecule to Fred Johnson, who we now already see is going to probably share it with Anderson Dawes, which even Drummer's like, what the fuck? Yeah, so that is kind of wiped away. They're like, no, you're not the person that we thought you were. And it's not that she's necessarily a bad person. I think it's just that they're seeing more of the kind of shades of gray and the conflicts within her between the idealistic side that wants to do certain things and then the side of her that also feels very much tied to this Belter identity. And that kind of depressingly does sort of believe some of the things that Aaron Wright was saying too about when weapons are out there, they're going to be used, so you have to protect yourself and your own people. And so, yeah, there's more sides to her than just this kind of a righteous, good moral figure. And I think that both Amos and Holden maybe kind of were blind to that, and they're starting to see it now. And so in a way, I do think it's disappointing that both of them maybe kind of viewed her in too much of an idealistic light as opposed to viewing her as a whole person with conflicts and flaws. And now that they're seeing who she really is, that they're kind of like, ugh, backing away. And I don't want to excuse what she did, because I think what she did was wrong, particularly the lying aspect of it. Going behind their backs and lying was 100% wrong. But I also think that there's some validity to the idea that, you know, it's not right to put someone up on a pedestal where you put unrealistic, idealistic expectations on them, and then when they fail to meet that, you are angry at them or disappointed in them. You know, if that makes any sense. So I'm conflicted, but I don't, you know, what could she have expected to happen? And like Alex said too, that what would you think, Naomi? I mean, what would she think if he had done the same thing but given it to Mars? I can't help but think that she would have been extremely self-righteous and furious about it, and rightly so, and they're right to be angry with her and to not trust her at this point in time. But one concern I kind of do have is that maybe she is right. Maybe it would have been smarter for them to go to Tycho first and see if they could get some assistance, maybe some more manpower or something before going on this mission, and they're not going to listen to her trying to rationalize those things because they don't necessarily trust that she's just being rational. They might think, well, she's just being biased, you know, she's all about the belt and Fred Johnson, she's been this way. So I don't know. But personally, I'm glad that they're at least gonna try to save May. I'm curious to see what's gonna happen with all their relationships now. I mean, Holden and Naomi, they're obviously going to have problems. Amos and Naomi are obviously having problems. Amos seems to be latching on to Holden. Now I'll follow Holden instead. Amos is telling Alex, oh, we were never a family and it's all going to just fall apart. Oh, and that's I think the other big thing from this episode that I wanted to comment on was Alex and his message to his family. Well, that was kind of rough. That was difficult to hear him actually say to them. You know, I think that what I always wanted was to be out here doing things like this more than I ever wanted to be with you. And you know, some people aren't meant to be just like family men and women, family people, and the sad part is that he realizes that after he'd already made those choices to marry someone and have a child and have a family. It's like you can understand that some people are not made for that, but it seems like just a brutal thing to say to somebody, but at the same time very honest, like he's realizing something about himself that's just a truth about who he is. And at the same time, it's kind of good that he's being honest, but also maybe, you know, is that what they needed to hear or just what he needed to say? I don't know, but it made me think quite a lot. It was a big moment for him, and I like that they were giving him more of that kind of fleshing him out, because it seems like out of the core cast, he's the one that was the least kind of emotionally developed as a character, so I like that they're giving that. So I like that I'm able to look at Alex more and think about his inner conflicts and what I feel about them the same way I've been able to do with, say, Holden and Amos and Naomi and all of them previously. So yeah, so like I said, a lot happening in this episode, and they left us at another cliffhanger, but alright guys, that's gonna do it for this video. So let me know what you think in the comment section, if there's anything you think I missed or that's important or that you disagree with or just stuff you want to share, please do. And other than that, I'll just say thank you very much for joining me today, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.